I'll find somebody that is in a row. And I'll do count. Well, I don't know. You maybe.
All right. Welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church, a church of open minds and loving hearts since 1866, celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your identity are welcome here. Reverend Luke, who is traveling, has a brief message to welcome us back into the building.
Hi, First UU Church. I'm here at the oldest Unitarian church in the South in Charleston, South Carolina. Our family is here, and this is where we'll be gathered Sunday when you're gathered there, but I wanted to send a special message because of the events of the week and the damage to the church and the tree falling as well. First, I want to express gratitude to Erica Fetterman and other staff for coordinating so many folks to come out to the church, both professionals and volunteers, to take care of our space and care for it. We moved amazingly quickly to be able to gather this Sunday. Also grateful to Diana for preaching this morning and holding you. I want you to take a moment, a breath of gratitude that we've re-entered our space, our church today, that you are there right now in body or spirit, connected in person or online. In gratitude for all that has made today possible, and for the care that will be needed in the days to come for cleaning and repair. So take a breath of gratitude and feel below you the earth, feel below you the floor, and maybe if you're in the space, hold on to the chair or the hymnal or something as I offer this blessing of re-entering our space. May nothing evil cross this door, and may good fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, these rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This heart, though all the world grow chill, will keep you warm. Sending love and strength from Charleston. May your time this morning be blessed.
You will find upcoming events in your order of service. Please join us after the service for coffee and donuts, either downstairs in the commons or bring refreshments outdoors to the high tables in the courtyard. Today we are glad to welcome our guest preacher, Diana McLean. Reverend McLean is a nearly lifelong Unitarian Universalist. She grew up in a military family with roots in North Dakota, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, and has lived in 3 countries and 12 states so far. Her passions include reading, writing, jigsaw puzzles, photography, and travel. Her favorite job title is mom to her son Aiden, who is now 19. She and her wife Shay, also a UU minister, are the co-founders of an arts-based entrepreneurial ministry, Sacred Depths. They currently live in Minneapolis with 2 cats, a dog, and many books. We're so glad you're here. Now, let us enter this time of worship with these words from our minister in the 1870s, the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes. May our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way.
church. This is the church of the flaming chalice. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the loving heart, where friends come together and share.
I'd like to invite any children to come forward. Of course, adults, you're always welcome as well. I have a little book for you today. Hello. Good to see these faces back today. I wish I could have caught some of you last week. So, does anybody know what the word enough means? Go ahead. You don't need more of it. So, does anybody feel like they're not enough sometimes? Like not smart enough or fast enough or talented enough? Yeah, sometimes that's the case. But I'm here to tell you something today, in the form of a story, of course, because that's how we like to tell our stories, right? That we are enough exactly as we are. Because if you look at other people, do you think that they're enough? Yeah. So it's important that we treat ourselves how we treat our friends. So today's story is by Grace Byers, pictures by Keturah A. Bobo, and it is called I Am Enough. Like the sun, I am here to shine. Like the voice, I am here to sing. Like the bird, I am here to fly and soar over everything. Has anybody ever done that on a swing? It really feels like you're flying, kind of, doesn't it? Like the trees, I am here to grow, and like the mountains, I am here to stand. Like time, I am here to be, and be everything I can. Like the champion, I am here to fight, but like the heart, I'm also here to love. Like a ladder, here to climb, and like the air, to rise above. Like the wind, I am here to push, and like a rope, I am here to pull. Like the rain, I'm here to pour and drip and fall until I'm full. Like the moon, I am here to dream. And like a student, I am here to learn. Like the water, I am here to swell, and like the fire, here to burn. And like the winner, I am here to win. And if I don't get up again, I know that I may sometimes cry, but even then, I'm here to try. I'm not meant to be like any of you. You're not meant to be like me. Sometimes we will get along, and sometimes we will disagree. And I know that we don't look the same, our skin, our eyes, our hair, or even our frame. But that does not dictate our worth, because we all have a place here on earth. And in the end, we are right here to live a life of love and not fear. To help each other when it's tough, to say together, I am enough. Because can you imagine if we were all the same? It'd be very creepy. You're right, Arya. It'd also be very boring, right, Ellie? It's like if we were all the same, but if we all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses, we can all work together and make everything enough. Yeah, everybody's name would be the same. How confusing would that be? Very confusing. Not you, not you, not you, not you. Yes, you are totally right. So Austin's going to play a little song, and we're going to go down to the Commons today. The Commons, right below. You know why.
Good morning. It is good to be with you. I invite you to settle in here as we create a place of communal caring and connection. It's our time to pause amidst the busyness of our lives, to slow down enough to consider the beauty that is here all around us, and to open a space for listening and love. Here we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Robin Taylor, serving as our caring coordinator for the last 2 weeks, arranging care for our members and friends in need. Vicki Wolf will take over tomorrow for the next 2, and we thank her for that. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. These last 2 years and last week have taken a lot out of us. They have taken a lot from us. If during this time of increasing needs in our lives you are experiencing challenges, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. Many of us may need additional care, whether it be personal pastoral care or other assistance, and we encourage you to reach out to Reverend Luke or myself with that request. Today's flowers are shared by Roxanne Schlesner in celebration of her birthday, which was July 24th. In this community, we share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because all people here have value. Each person's experience matters. We lift up those who are experiencing sadness, illness, or loneliness. May the strength and love in our congregation help guide you. We revel in those who are experiencing joys in their lives. May their happiness lift us all, and may their joy filter into all around them. May all of us find love, hope, joy, and healing strength in our community. We send healing thoughts to Marilyn Dealing, who is recovering from a recent surgery. As she heals, cards of support and care would be welcomed, and we wish her well in her recovery. And we congratulate and celebrate with Sarah and Walt Rothwell the birth of their new granddaughter, Oriana, born on July 25th, to daughter Emily Rothwell in Massachusetts. We welcome this new life to the world. As our UUs have been doing for well over 150 years, we are continuing to adjust to an ever-changing world and new ways of doing things. Through this time of adjustment and canceling and rescheduling, we ask for hope and patience, understanding and acceptance, and a renewed commitment of service to those in our lives, church, and community. May the faith in the Spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
Please join me in a spirit of meditation or prayer. Spirit of life and love, God of many names and beyond any possible human naming, we hold in our hearts today all of those who are facing medical struggles, whether recovering from surgery, dealing with ongoing effects of the pandemic, or any other. We celebrate with all those marking birthdays or births within their families. And we hold in our hearts all of those joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, but which we know are held tenderly in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all those who need it feel the embrace of our love. And may the embrace of our love and a love greater than all of us extend to all those in our world who need it today. Amen, and blessed be. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit. We're going to sing hymn number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open. We're going to sing it through once in unison, and then we're going to divide approximately in half and do a round twice through. And Anne will lead this side of the room, and I will lead that side.
The reading, let's take this off. The reading is from A Life of Being, Having, and Doing Enough by Wayne Muller. When we are unable to clearly identify what is enough of anything, it can feel more and more difficult to recognize when to stop striving or grasping in our desperate pursuit of everything. Unless we feel some certainty that our work, our gift, our time, our relationships are, at the end of the day, enough, we may never feel permission to stop. Most houses have a working thermostat that regulates the work of the heater, ensuring that it pumps precisely enough heat into the house. When this device informs the heater that our home has reached a sufficiently comfortable temperature, the heater can stop actively putting out heat. It powers itself down into a standby mode until it is needed again, whenever the temperature drops. Without a functional thermostat, the heater would just keep heating and heating until either the boiler finally exploded or the house burned down. Where is the signal from our body, our heart, our inner knowing that tells us when we have done enough for now? Without any kind of reliable thermostat, we just keep going and going, never certain we can stop. There is no signal we recognize, no sign, no permission, no indication that it is time to rest, that it is all right. We have enough. We have done enough for now. What if our inner thermostats are broken? What if we are already pushed to that breaking point? What if our house is already on fire? What if we have already done enough, been enough, given enough, shared enough, offered enough, created enough for now, for today? How many of us can honestly claim to feel that what we did today was enough? That when we lay our head on our pillow at night, can honestly say, that was a good day, that was enough. Teachers of many spiritual traditions often inquire, what if you already have what you seek? This question is aimed to stop us, make us confused, raise dozens of reasonable protests, throw up our arms, even declare the question ridiculous. Nevertheless, the question lives. It remains a most simple, familiar refrain. What is enough? And more importantly, how would we ever know if we had it? Most Sundays, our entire offering collection goes out the doors of our church to support work for a more just and loving world. July's recipient is Just the Pill, a nonprofit focused on reproductive health care and abortion services. They provide mobile clinics and flexible support, especially equipped to help on borders of states with more restrictive care. As Unitarian Universalists, we support full access to reproductive and abortion services. You may give as the plates pass or online. Thank you for your generosity.
Wayne Muller wrote the book that this morning's reading came from in 2010. In the introduction to that book, he said, So many good-hearted people who I know are exhausted. For the past 15 years, he goes on, I have spoken with many rich, diverse groups of loving, caring people. And wherever I go, I find myself so deeply saddened by how the world is placing increasingly impossible pressures and responsibilities on ordinary people who are simply doing what they can to help make their families, their communities, or their world somehow better, more beautiful, more whole. I don't know about you, but for me, that paragraph still feels valid. Maybe even more so today in the wake of all of the added pressures that life during a pandemic has placed on us. You've probably all seen articles about the levels of burnout and exhaustion, articles talking about the great resignation as many people are leaving their jobs. Exhaustion across a wide swath of our population, a wide range of professions, and in parents and caregivers of every kind. I believe that that makes today's topic about enoughness an important one for us to explore at this precise moment in our shared lives. The reading ended with these questions. What is enough? And more importantly, how would we ever know if we had it? These questions, probably not in exactly that form, have been a recurring theme throughout my adulthood. In my late 20s, I was single, childless, and working full-time in a corporate job that I neither loved nor hated. Then I had a cancer scare. I had to wait for about 2 weeks for a biopsy result, the longest 2 weeks I've ever lived, except maybe the last 2 weeks of pregnancy. During that biopsy waiting period, I asked myself, if I only had a few more years to live, what would I want to do with those years? The answer came easily and immediately. I would want to move to the mountains. I was living in Nebraska at the time, so very far from any mountains. I would want to move to the mountains, write, and spend as much time as possible with my loved ones. My next question was, so why not do those things now, even if the biopsies come back negative? The biopsies were, in fact, benign, but that question stuck with me. And so I began setting things in motion to create the life I wanted, a life that would feel like enough to me, even if maybe it didn't look like the life that others expected me to lead, continuing to climb some corporate ladder or fulfilling any other expectations from outside of myself. I had already been doing some freelance writing in addition to my corporate job, and so I intentionally sought an increase in that work. I used the extra money from that freelance income to pay off my car, which was my only debt at the time, long before grad school, and then to create a healthy savings account while building up enough of a client base to be able to leave that corporate job. It took me a little less than a year, and by the end of that time, I had about 6 months worth of savings to help me survive any slow times that might come along in the freelance work. Making the switch from corporate America to self-employment certainly had both pros and cons. It didn't have the security of a corporate job. The paycheck didn't come reliably every 2 weeks, nor did it come with a health insurance package. But it did give me time to write and freedom to travel, mostly to visit my family and friends. I did not move to the mountains at that point, not for several more years, but that cancer scare is what pointed me in the direction of following my own inner knowing, as Muller calls it, of what kind of life I wanted, what was enough for my soul. Clearly, I didn't stick with that exact plan permanently. I eventually got married, became a mother, answered the call to ministry. I lived in the mountains for years, but obviously I don't live there anymore. As Muller says, there is no guarantee we will ever find enough of anything in the same place or in the same way twice. As we grow and change, he says, our experience of sufficiency grows and changes with us. Our needs and our wants at 15 years old are nearly unrecognizable to those we experience in our 50s. The details of my life have certainly changed a lot since that cancer scare more than 20 years ago, but I keep checking in with what Muller calls our inner compass, or our intuition, or our inner knowing, to ask myself, what is the life that calls to me now? Underneath that question is always the question, what is enough? What do I want more of? And what do I want less of in my life? Muller's advice about how we can know what is enough for us personally is to include listening not only to our thoughts, but also to our bodies. He says, however passionately we may argue or define or discern with any precision what is enough of anything, it is in the undeniable yes of our body, the unmistakable balance of spirit and life in agreeable harmony with the world around us, that we feel either the cramping fear of scarcity, the bloated saturation of overabundance, or the gentle, effortless release of easy sufficiency. Now, I wasn't always good at listening to the signals my body sent me. In fact, I was notably bad at it for a period of years, including overworking in that corporate job. But now I have learned that if I get quiet and ask myself whether something is enough or not, whether it's the next right thing for me or not, I can feel that undeniable yes or no in my body as well as my spirit. Both my wife and I lost our dads to cancer too young, and so we have never taken for granted that we will have until our old age to do all of the things we want to do together. Now, we don't assume that we won't have that time together. We're not pessimistic about it. But we just don't postpone our dreams until our eventual theoretical retirement. That means that we balance saving for that hoped-for someday retirement with having experiences now that are part of our life being enough for us as a family. For example, we love to travel, so we don't leave the big trips for someday when we are retired. We live life as fully as possible now and hope to continue to live it as fully as possible for decades to come. But by living it fully now, by seeking enough now rather than only planning for enough in our retirement, we have joy in the present and no regret at missed opportunities. About a year ago, in keeping with that approach, we both left parish ministries that were high stress and were requiring us to maintain separate homes 2.5 hours apart. In fact, pre-pandemic, we had never lived together full-time in the same home because of our ministry positions. Now, we are living smaller in terms of income, but in a single home that we bought together last month in Minneapolis, where we both have close friends and extended family, which is another part of what we have defined as necessary to enoughness in our own lives. Before, we had more income, but less time and energy. Now, while we don't have quite the level of freedom that I did as a single, childless, self-employed person, we are able to travel more, to spend more time at home together, to see more of our extended family, and to enjoy more of the unpaid activities that we love. We have enough of what matters most to us. I'm wondering, as you hear these stories of mine, if you're thinking about parallel experiences in your own lives. Maybe you've had similar moments of coming face to face with your own mortality and deciding to make life changes so that however much time you have left, whether it's weeks or decades, will be the kind of life you want. not one that our capitalist, consumerist culture says is the right way for you to live. Perhaps you've been thinking about changes but haven't gotten that plan going quite yet. I want to recognize up front that we are not all equally able to make those changes, depending upon our social location and other factors. If I had had a child dependent upon me, I might not have taken that leap from corporate America to self-employment and given up things like a steady paycheck and health insurance. But I had a window of opportunity where that was an option. What I want to suggest to us this morning is that whatever our circumstances may be, we can ask ourselves Muller's questions about what is enough for us personally, and then we can assess whether we are actually pushing ourselves toward goals that are not congruent with who we really are, like climbing that corporate ladder was only going to make me less and less happy in the corporate world, not more. Or whether we are doing things that we think someone else says we should do, whether those voices of should come from our parents, our friends, society as a whole, messages that we take in from the media. We get a lot of should messages from all around us. But we can choose, using the tools Muller talks about, we can choose to make decisions with awareness that there are choices, whether small or large, available to us. Even if it's something as simple as, I'd like to change my job, I can't do that right now for whatever reason. Maybe I need more education to do the thing I'd rather do, but I can carve out a little time for a hobby I've been neglecting, or a hobby I've been wanting to try, something that brings me joy, even if it's not connected to my professional life, perhaps especially if it's not attached to your professional life. And of course, as Unitarian Universalists, our theology calls us to do much more than just live with a sense of enough for ourselves individually. Our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and our belief in the interdependent web of all life, calls us to demand enough for all. Enough clean water, clean air, food, shelter, safety, love, health care, freedom. Right now, at a time when it is so clear, both nationally and globally, that not everyone has enough, while some have far more than their share, it can be tempting to think that what we must do in response is wear ourselves out trying to create justice. Push ourselves as far as we can for as long as we can doing that good work. But in the end, of course, that harms us and cuts short our ability to continue to do the good work. So how can we balance these two things? Our need to live a sustainable life, which includes rest, and our urge to do the work that makes the world better for others. I've heard this question so many times in Unitarian Universalist congregations around our country. Often that question is raised in the context of someone who feels like they are not a good enough Unitarian Universalist because they don't have the bandwidth or whatever other resources to be engaged in social justice projects happening in their communities. They're dealing with their own challenges, perhaps medical, perhaps financial, perhaps something else. And this is just not a moment where they have anything extra to offer to others. Maybe that's you today. And if so, I give you my deepest blessings. I've always tried to do what I can to make it clear that this is part of why we are not Unitarian Universalists in isolation, but in community. That at any one point in time, some of us are able to give, while others need to receive, whether we are talking about time or money or energy. Unitarian minister Reverend Theodore Parker famously said in a sermon in 1853, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one, and my eye reaches but a little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. But from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. often used a shortened version of that in his speeches, the arc of the universe bending towards justice. I love that quote, both versions of it, and also I struggle with it because I don't think that it's always true, that everything bends toward justice. On the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, President Obama referred to this quote and added something important when he said, "The arc of the universe may bend toward justice, but it doesn't bend on its own." That's a version of the quote that aligns with my Unitarian Universalist theology. The arc doesn't bend on its own. We bend it. You and I and countless others who are called to the work of creating justice in this world. I envision that arc as a giant piece of very thin metal with some flexibility but still difficult to bend. I imagine that only by collectively putting our shoulders against it, leaning into it with all of our weight, and pressing together do we bend it toward justice. And if we stop, if we think the work is done and we stop actively bending that arc, what happens? It springs back into its old position. This is what has happened time and time again when we have thought that the work of justice is done, that we have done enough, the battle is won, we've arrived at our goal. When we relax, as we did collectively after the victories of the civil rights era of the 1960s, victories like the Voting Rights Act, and then the arc may spring backwards, as it did with the gutting of the Voting Rights Act by the Supreme Court in June of 2013. Sometimes that arc is actively pushed back even if we're not relaxing our vigilance, as recently with the overturning of Roe v. Wade by the current Supreme Court. Maybe someday that arc of the moral universe will have been bent to justice for so long that it will stay there even without constant pressure from us. Maybe. But that day is clearly not here yet. I believe it will only come when humanity as a whole thinks justice is just how things are, just the way we always live, the way we always treat our fellow human beings and the natural world. When we all share an understanding that part of enoughness is ensuring enough for everyone, extending the blessing of enoughness to everyone. Again, we're clearly not there yet. And so I'm in it for the long haul. I press my shoulder to that arc, and when I'm too tired, because bending that arc is hard work, friends, I rest, and then I'm able to come back to the task replenished. The resting part of that process is important, and it is part of our discussion of enoughness today. The work is hard, and it is, at least within our lifetimes, never done. There is always another injustice crying out for our attention and our action. It can be heartbreaking. That heartbreak can spur us to action, or it can push us to emotional fatigue. Across time, each of us will experience both of those things. I have to choose, and so do you, when and where each of us can show up, even in the midst of heartbreak, in a way that might make a difference for those who don't have the option of taking a break. I also have to decide when I have had enough. Not enough in the fulfilling sense of, I don't need more than this, but enough as in, no more, please. It is as important, I believe, for us to know when it is time to cry out enough as it is to know when we can say with quiet satisfaction that we and our lives are enough. I think life is in the tension between those two things. Saying enough, stop, to what we need to be changing, and saying enough, that is enough. when we are blessed with enoughness in any area of our lives. Muller says, our sense of sufficiency when born in a wealthy nation bears little resemblance to the forcibly constricted sufficiency of a poor one. There is enough available in the world if we choose to care more about enoughness for each of us and each of the people we might sometimes think of as them, whether it's them on the other side of the globe from us or the other side of a political divide from us. We must care about enoughness for everyone rather than getting as much as we can as individuals. My hope for each of us is that we will find our way to a sense of enoughness in our own lives if we don't already have that, and that then, from that place of what Muller calls deep sufficiency, we are able to contribute to enoughness for others. A colleague of mine once described this in the context of ministry as serving from your saucer rather than your cup. She said, if you serve from the cup, your cup will become empty. If you allow your cup to overflow into the saucer and then you serve from the saucer, you will never run dry and you will be able to continue to serve. That is the kind of enoughness and service from enoughness that I hope for all of us. May it be so. Amen and blessed be. And now, in that spirit of enoughness, I invite you to sing a hymn that often gets used as an offertory, but I felt like it fit in a different place in today's service. It's hymn number 402, From You I Receive, and we'll sing it through 2 times together. As we prepare to leave our time of shared worship, may we continue to think about what is enough for us and how we may share any abundance that we experience with others within and beyond this beloved community. May that be our practice and our prayer. Go in peace. Go in love.